This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, April 9th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Sales taxes from recreational marijuana sales in Colorado rose slightly in February, but given the increase in outlets, some legislators fear marijuana tax revenue won't live up to predictions. Total sales tax from recreational pot rose $30,000 in February from $1.4 million to $1.43 million. However, the number of outlets for recreational pot increased by 40% from 59 to 83. There are expected to be double the number, about 190 pot shops included in the March tax data that's due out in May. Medical marijuana revenues rose about $600,000 in February, though much of that increase came from fees, not sales. Still, continued growth of medical revenues and stagnation of recreational revenues suggests to some that overtaxation of recreational marijuana is keeping the black market flourishing and draining sales away from legal stores. In addition to legalizing marijuana nationwide, the South American country of Uruguay is going to give its prisoners marijuana and make it part of the National Public Health Service. Uruguay's drug czar Julio Calzada announced that prisoners with a doctor's recommendation to use medical marijuana for physical or mental health treatment will be allowed to use it in prison. Also, Social Development Minister Daniel Olesker stated that medical marijuana will become a part of the country's public health system, along with acupuncture and homeopathic remedies. Regulations are expected to be finalized by, no kidding, April 20th, but the country's legal marijuana market rollout won't happen until the end of the year. The Washington, D.C. City Council has unanimously approved opening up its medical marijuana program California style. Currently, D.C.'s medical marijuana law, like the laws in all other medical marijuana states except California, determines which patients may qualify for medical marijuana by statute. In other words, a qualifying condition list. If a patient has cancer, for instance, a doctor may recommend cannabis, but if the patient has, say, social anxiety disorder, no matter how much the doctor thinks cannabis may help, the law prevents that recommendation. But in California, and perhaps soon in D.C. if Congress doesn't veto this change, it is solely up to the doctor to decide whether a patient qualifies for medical marijuana. We have a trio of polls to report on concerning marijuana. First, Huffington Post and YouGov teamed up to poll Americans on their feelings regarding the responsible use of cannabis by adults. When asked, quote, "Is it possible to be a responsible adult and occasionally smoke marijuana?" 59% of Americans agreed. There was no gender, age, political, racial, income, or regional demographic that disagreed, though retirees at 45% and blacks at 49% were pluralities, not majorities. And Republicans were nearly evenly split at 46% responsible, 43% irresponsible. But when the follow-up question was asked, do you think it makes it harder or easier to be a responsible adult if a person occasionally smokes marijuana? Majorities of age 65 plus at 53% and Republicans at 57% chose harder, while pluralities and majorities of every other demographic said it made no difference. Finally, when asked, do you think most people who occasionally smoke marijuana are responsible adults or not, only Republicans, 52%, were a majority saying we aren't. While surprisingly, young adults 18 to 29, 44%, were a larger plurality than retirees age 65 plus at 43%, who thought that we're not responsible adults. All other groups formed pluralities or majorities that found us responsible, except Hispanics, who were split 44% toward irresponsible, 43% toward responsible. Our second poll comes from Louisiana State University, which has noted a rise in support for marijuana reform in the Bayou State. 44% of Louisianans support legalization of marijuana, up from 42% the year before. Medical marijuana attracts the support of almost 4 out of 5, or 79% of residents. There is again a gender gap, with men 49% in support and women 11 points back at 38% support. And finally, our last poll comes from Monmouth University Asbury Park Press in New Jersey, which finds residents split on marijuana legalization, 48 for, 47 against. The gender gap is strong in New Jersey, with 56% of men in favor, but only 39% of women in favor, a full 17-point gap. Having children made little difference in legalization support, but smoking pot sure did, with 2/3 of tokers supporting legalization and 59% of non-tokers against it. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, April 9th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available at our website, 420radio.org. When we come back, we'll go behind the headlines into a small town in Illinois where a middle-aged woman was busted in the middle of the night in her own home over 9 grams of marijuana. We'll tell you how it went down and how it's destroying a small business when we come back.